Thank you all for coming. This is a meeting in which we're recognizing a real milestone in the development of the airport. The first third of the Horseshoe, the extension to the northwest in the field, is being acquired. There's one piece left, and that is the transmission of the funds from the Georgia Department of Transportation. I was hoping the commissioner could be here to confirm whether that's happened or not, but the significance of that is that this has been a long project that's gone on for years, and I want to take a minute to give credit to some of the board members who are no longer here, specifically Dr. Austin, Ken Austin, our former chairman, Dr. Susan Hamill, who also left the board this year, and Marion Harris, who retired back at the end of last year. These people, as well as members on the current authority, had a lot to do with, over the years, what developed into a real opportunity for the airport, and we're very appreciative of that. I'd like to call for the adoption of the meeting agenda. We do have a quorum. We're missing Ed Wood. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
And seconded. All right. Approval of the February 16th minutes. Any questions on the minutes?
We'll approve that last revision, or move that last revision be approved. Second.
Restate that.
Move that the last revision that went out this afternoon be approved.
Be approved. That's the one I've got in front of us here. Motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. We approved. This is the opportunity for any input from the public. Any questions, comments? All right. My report tonight, I've mentioned the Horseshoe transaction and the significance that is for us. We already have three reasonably solid leads for the construction of hangars on that property. And now that we own it, the hangars that will be placed there will be within the airport property. They won't be a so-called through-the-fence operation. We are working to find the rest of the funds through GDOT, and during a meeting at the end of the month of February with the folks at GDOT that we deal with, we talked about the opportunities to raise potentially the remainder of the funds to complete the acquisition, that is to purchase the entire 17 acres. That is in GDOT's hands at this point, but we're relying on the potential for what's called closeout funds, which are funds that were allocated to work which won't be done by the end of their fiscal year, June 30. So the money becomes available. The commissioner is lobbying very heavily for GDOT to allocate those funds to us to help us complete that purchase. I would like to acknowledge Randy Thomason tonight. The authority has voted to make him the airport manager, the official airport manager, which he's certainly earned through his years of service here. We are in the process of recruiting an assistant manager, and we've identified a candidate. We're in the reference checking stages now, but we hope to within another week or so be able to announce an assistant to help Randy at the airport. But we congratulate Randy on his assignment. Appreciate the work you've done.
Thank you.
Any committee and authority member reports? I don't think we have any. Anybody? All right. I do not have a treasurer's report tonight because the financial statement hasn't been done for February. I imagine that has something to do with the audit that's being done at the county right now. So But I will tell you that based on fuel sales, and Randy's going to talk about this in just a minute, we had a good month in February, which is not the usual kind of thing we expect in a cold month. Even with snow, I believe our results are going to be positive for the month. We'll have the financial statement at our next meeting. Okay, Randy, airport manager's report.
You have two reports in front of you. One is for the total of sales for February. We were above last year in Jet A and above or right on par last year with 100 low lead. On your sheet you don't see a total price for 100 low lead because there's two different prices, actually three: full service, self-service, and based on the field. So we don't break that out, it's just the daily totals. So we did almost 2,000 gallons of 100 low lead. Right now we had such a banner month that going into March we've already sold 485 gallons, actually after today over 500. This is going to leave us less than 900 gallons in the tank, of which only about 450 are pumpable. So we anticipate having to buy 100 low lead this week. If you look at the February statement, you'll see the buy price for 100 low lead. It's creeped up slightly, but we'll be able to maintain the same price on the field and give the discount to the customers and the transit. For March, good news. If you look already for Jet A sales, we have passed the entire month of February. So far in March for Jet A, we're almost 2,000 gallons of Jet A, and we're only into the 8th day of the month. So we are really knocking it down with Jet A, and our price point is making the airport allowing us to pay the bills. So I anticipate the end of this month to be a banner month also, and since they moved up the Sun and Fun to like the first week of April, I anticipate more transit traffic from north traveling south and vice versa the week after. So if it's like last year and the year before, we should look for increased fuel sales as well. So I anticipate the forecast for the next 2 months to be outstanding.
Maybe the weather will hold good too.
Amen. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Very interesting evolution with the Osprey this weekend. You want to?
Oh yes, sir. And thank you, David, he made a video clip. We'll get it on the Facebook and to No Pickens. We had OB-22 Osprey come in for a hot pit refuel while running operation. Lasted about 14 minutes from overflying the field to in chocks and out again. And in that 14 minutes we pumped 1,365 gallons of fuel. Goes through a 3-inch hose at about 140 gallons a minute. So it's an interesting experience. If you ever get a chance, if I can publicize or have more advance notice, I'd like for everybody to come out and watch it. It's an incredible undertaking. Kudos to the fire department. They also come out every time and support us. Anytime we call, they'll be out for us. So we really appreciate the people at the fire department. That's all I have.
Interesting aircraft too.
Oh, yes, sir.
It flies.
Like a hummingbird.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay. Engineers report. Jack, the floor is yours.
You want to discuss the hangars?
Yeah, let me start by saying that one of the reasons for going to see the people at GDOT was to talk about the funding that basically didn't appear. We started this project last fall based on the very strong indication from GDOT that they were going to form a large fund that was designed specifically for general aviation airports, and they were looking for people to step up and get ready to take down the funds. I think at one point, I think you mentioned, Jack, that there was some concern that they wouldn't be able to put the money out. Very promising sounding. The fund is yet to be announced. The feeling is that because it involves sales tax, fuel sales tax revenue that Delta has been paying or would pay under this plan, Delta has objected strongly to the application. I guess what they're objecting to is they're going to lose their exemption for.
Yeah, they were given exemptions when they moved into Atlanta, and then they all almost went bankrupt. I guess they agreed to give them an exemption on all the tax, and so now that they are being profitable, they're wanting to get that tax money the state is. And so that was the fund that we were talking about, the $20 to $40 million of aviation tax fuel. And unfortunately, as Mr. Howe said, that Delta's fighting it tooth and nail because they still want to keep that exempt status, and they want to do that perpetuity. So
What isn't helping them apparently is the $1.5 billion they paid in bonuses to their employees last year. So the question of whether they can pay their sales fuel tax is certainly up in the air. Well, we'll see what happens. In fact, Thursday, day after tomorrow, I'm scheduled to talk with our engineer there, Scott Serrett, who has told me at our meeting that he'd be able to tell me something then. So hopefully we'll know a little something, even the possibility that we may have only a partial fund, but yet we may be able to access those funds is still a hope. There is another alternative, which I don't want to get into, but it looks like a promising possibility to make up the difference. The difference being about $300,000. We've got loans. We got a loan from a local bank to cover about 2/3 of the project. The balance is what we're hoping to get from GDOT. There is an alternative source that I'm looking into, and if that works out, then we don't have to rely on GDOT for this particular project. We'd be able to put the whole thing together, and it would support itself. It would support the debt service associated with it. So we're confident that something here is going to happen one way or another. And I might also add on the subject of the T-hangars, our original commitment to the individuals that hold reservations was that we would have this project ready to move in by April 1st, but clearly that isn't going to happen. So I've advised each of the 18 people that have reservations and deposits with us that this isn't going to happen. Not a single one as of yet has decided that they would like to get their money back. So I think everybody's hanging in there. We can talk about what possible schedules might be, but talk a little bit about what you're thinking.
yeah, we were kind of waiting to get the green light to go ahead for the design for the T-hangars. Mainly the reason for that was to have funding in line to go forward once we had the design. Mr. Howe and I have talked about this a good bit. And instead of us waiting for the funding, we're going to go ahead and start with the design for the T-hangars immediately if that's acceptable to everybody. And what that would mean is get the survey and the geotech technical people out there to start doing the preliminary work for us to develop our plans and specifications. We anticipated, we gave Mr. Howe a pretty tight schedule, 45 days that we could have the plans and specs. We were trying to shoot for a time frame where we thought the monies would be available for GDOT, and so we were looking at 45 days for that to be a good time. So we wanted to have shelf-ready plans and specifications, so when the money does come available, we're ready to go forward and get bids. Instead of us waiting to be told there's going to be funds and then get started, we want to be ready now. So what we agreed, or we talked about, is go ahead and get started on those plans and specs, and then have them sitting on the shelf. So when it is, we can go out for bids, and then we can go forward with the construction. And as I said, we were looking at 45 days, pretty quick turnaround, but we feel like we can do that. And it's just if we can go ahead and get started, get the thumbs up so far as getting the survey and the geotech. Get that started, that's pretty critical for us. And what we understand that the reimbursements of our funds will be dependent upon getting those eligible funds from GDOT or where we get those. And what I've told Dave, what Mr. Howe was we'll hold off any invoicing until that time, and we'd get reimbursed for our services. And that just kind of helps out to where we're in line for whatever funding is available.
Yeah, in other words, you're making the investment in the project.
Yes, sir. And it's one of those that there are a lot of people that are, a lot of airports that are looking to utilize the funds. And everybody's kind of said, yeah, we want to be on that list. So we've told them that whatever this list is, an imaginary list, I call it, but we want GDOT to know that we're ready, we're locked and loaded. So when it is available, that we can go out for bids.
And what happens with all the costs incurred if the project never happens?
Well, that's,
It's gonna happen.
I mean, it's,
How about my question?
you know, we need some sort of confidence that at some point that we can get reimbursed for it, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, a year out. I mean, that's, you know, we're looking at roughly $70,000 worth of work and sub-consultant work included, so, I mean, we'd be holding a pretty hefty bill there, so.
Hey, I've got heartburn on committing, it's not our money because we don't have it, but committing the county's money on something that we don't know yet that's gonna happen.
It's a fair point, and I think before you get that far into the project where you've accumulated those kinds of funds, I think we'll know whether the money that we think is there is in fact there. I mean, there's a risk here, but I personally, from the conversations we've had with GDOT and the sense I'm getting from this other alternative that I'm looking at, the risk is minimal. We're going to be able to find the funds.
Well, we're still incurring a risk for the county. Yeah, I don't think we have to incur. I mean, if we get funding secured, let's go forward. But I think funding needs to be first.
Well, we can wait we can wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Within that time frame, I think I know a lot more than I know today, but.
And I don't have any problem. If you get some information, call the meeting and we'll come. It scares me. It's hard to explain if something happens and we don't get where we want to, that we've incurred $70,000.
Right, and let me say that I had not planned, what I wanted to do was talk about it here. If we wanted to do this, I would go straight to the commissioner and go to the next work session as well to talk about what we plan to do.
I think they'll be more cautious than we are. I think they'll be, as long as we get some funding secured, it's time to go forward.
Well, we got 2/3 of it.
How far have you progressed with the Industrial Development Authority on talking about, because it's got to go through the Development Authority, correct?
Yeah, well, the loan that we have committed, at least verbally at this point, with Jerry Edwards is through the Development Authority, and I think they've accepted the fact that this is the way it's going to be done.
It really hadn't been presented to the Development Authority.
I thought Jerry had discussed it in one of your meetings. Okay.
I mean, I think everybody knows that it's being looked at.
I talked to Tom about it. His feeling was that this is what the Development Authority is there to do.
Even still, there has not been a discussion and a vote at the Development Authority.
All right, well, I'm not surprised that there are multiple balls in the
Oh, I
air.
know. And that's my point. I just don't think we can commit to spend money, especially not our money, until we know we're moving forward.
All right. You agree, David?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. I agree as well. The plan will be to sit tight for the time being.
What I would like to do, excuse me, is whatever task order that we do with the airport authority, the county, that's going to be possibly reimbursed through the state funding or some type of mechanism. I want to run our task orders through GDOT, have Scott, Sarah look at it, approve the overall budget. So he's looked at our hours that we anticipate it's going to take to do each line item, plans and specs. We come to an agreement on that number. And this doesn't bind you in any way. It's just that they understand the scope, they understand the fee, and they feel that our numbers are comparable to other projects. And then when reimbursement does come available, they won't look at our budget and then start throwing things around and marking. It's already been agreed upon that if the project goes forward, if there's money, that this can be a reimbursable item. So it's already gone through the all the bean checkers, everybody's gone through each line item, so that number is agreeable.
I don't think any of us have any problem with
Yeah.
doing anything preliminary that
Yeah.
helps things go forward.
And that
We
just
just want to be on solid ground.
Oh, I
before we spend a lot of
understand,
money.
and all that does is when we are ready to go forward, that we can go march forward without having to go back and forth with any type of review with GDOT. And I understand, but you know, this way gets us ready, so when we do unleash the hounds where we can go forward, that step's already been taken care of. And it's a preliminary step.
All right, I think we're in agreement. Any
I
other?
have no problem with that at all.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Appreciate the engineer's willingness to go forward in the fashion that you're talking about.
We know it's an important project that y'all want to go forward, and it's an exciting adventure for all of us, so we're here for you, so.
All right, thanks. Commissioner's not here tonight. There's no more old business. I think we've covered it. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up?
I'm good.
Okay. I think we're done. Our next meeting is the 12th of April here at 7 p.m. Time is 7:24.